Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on this crisp December morning, for braving the cold to come here. Thank you for joining live. This event is organized by International Vintage Poster Dealer Association. It's an association that was founded in 1996 by a group of established dealers with the aim to promote poster art and educate general public, collectors and other buyers about vintage posters and their diversity. And the members of the association have strict professional criteria to ensure the posters that they sell are authentic. And when you're looking for posters, check that the dealers have the IVPDA website logo on the website, so to ensure that the posters are authentic. I would like to thank also Poster House for allowing us to host this event in this wonderful space. Their team has been fantastic, and the production crew that are Level Productions that are live streaming the event as well, and all the presenters that committed their time to be here and talk about posters with you. So my presentation is first. It's an introduction to vintage posters. I call it also art with let me first sort of tell you how I got into posters. I grew up in the Soviet Union, surrounded by posters on all the walls. The ones that you can see on the left here, a strong man sort of motivating people to do best for their country. And these posters were plastered on all the walls in schools, factories, and pretty much all over the place. And then I came to New York in the early 90s and saw a poster for an exhibition at the Guggenheim Museum called The Great Utopia that focused on Soviet art from 1920s, 30s. And that's the poster you can see on the left side of the slide. The graphics looked completely non-Soviet to me. It was something that I've never seen before, and I didn't believe that they could have been produced in the Soviet Union. And at school we were not really taught about 1920s and 30s because capitalism was introduced briefly, and the country went through a period of rapid growth where commerce was booming. Largely there was no censorship. Hollywood was very popular, people were free to travel. And for a while it looked like socialism could have a human face, but then Stalin had other plans later on in the period. So, but I think from an artist's point of view, that was a very exciting period where it looked like the country could be something built for the people, by the people. And for me, the posters were a window to that country. They all told a story. Told the story of a particular time, and that's what I enjoy the most as well, or one of the aspects I enjoy about the job dealing with posters is that every piece has a story to tell. It's either artist, subject, or period that I find exciting and doing research on. And these stories provide us with a connection to the past, largely. So, posters have existed for a long time. I mean, the sort of earliest ones date to the 15th century. Origins of the actual word, one of the versions is that most likely it relates to posts because they used to display posters on posts, hence the word poster. Largely textual, early on, quite boring. But in 1880s, Jules Chéret sort of came up with an idea of scaling down poster printing and reinvented the medium, and they became a bit more arty. But even back then, they were addressing people, advertising. events that were going on, but also used by the government to deliver the messages that were necessary. And the posters, though, they have sort of this ability of grab attentions of a passerby and engage them for a brief period of time. And an effective poster then sort of forces an action onto a person through its imagery. And most of these posters on the wall, on the slide, are from the 18th century. So we think that these days we're subjected to everyday barrage of the social media. Back then it was not dissimilar. All the walls were covered with posters, screaming and shouting different messages to people. Posters essentially are an early form of mass communication and social media, and the most effective way back then to distribute information in the pre-TV era. As you can see, the walls of many cities were completely covered in posters of different sizes, different colors, different styles, and essentially streets were art museums for people back then. Part of the street theater, and showcased the prevalent styles in a particular era, but also they became an important part of the social history. They pretty much fabric of everyday life that survive to this day and give us a glimpse of what was popular back then, what kind of styles, and what people were living with. And generally posters are a reflection of a public taste. But as you can see, given the amount of media displayed on the walls, the things or the posters that really did stand out had to be very different to everything else that was on the wall. So how are the posters printed? Most of these are lithographs. Lithography, it's a combination of two words, Greek words, lithos, stone, and grapho, to write. So stone lithos were printed or were hand-drawn in a reverse image on individual piece of stone, and each color had its own stone, so they would be consecutively printed onto a piece of paper to create an image at the end. What other means of printing posters? Offset is similar to lithograph in a way that images, or each color then has a metal plate or rubber blanket or rollers, and then they consecutively get printed onto the paper. The silk screen, where essentially image is broken down into stencil and then pushed through the material onto the paper. And the fact that the posters can be produced in a variety of techniques. Some are expensive, like lithography, some are less expensive, like stencil or woodblock, means that they can be manufactured quite easily, quickly, and done at home. That's why they're often used as a language of protest. For example, students during the Paris demonstrations in 1968 used posters quite extensively, and they were done as stencils and quite popular for collectors today. So just sort of looking at how the posters are from an artist's perspective, how different are they to painting? Both artists would rely on the previous experience and how they regarded when they gained commissions. But with painting, client gives commission to an artist and largely doesn't have much impact into what comes out at the end. Whereas when artists design posters, client has to say into what is on the poster very often. They give a very detailed brief, often of what needs to be there, and become part of the process of creative design at the end. The artist has to pitch his design and only gets paid after the poster is commissioned. So what you see on the slide here is a design for a poster from 1933. It's a design by Lillian Drain for London Underground. If you sort of think about it, this is 1930s. London Underground is portrayed as Hermes, the modern god of transport. Quite bold statement for those days. The poster is designed as a triptych, very similar to religious art, and the figure has London Underground roundel at its heart. The mouse is the building of the BBC. The eyes are the National Gallery. The Royal Albert Hall is the ears. The veins pretty much are sort of schematic lines of the London Underground. And there's a snake that is sort of like a train of the London Underground carrying people. The design was very well received by the London Transport, but why do you think it was not printed? Any ideas?
He's naked.
He's naked? Not quite, yeah.
It was like military.
Military?
Yeah. Do you want
Yeah.
it? It seems like very different to the other London Underground posters at the time.
It is, but ultimately it came down to cost. It was designed for 3-panel poster, so that would mean that they would have to adjust the displays that were on the stations, and it was costly to print 3 sheets as compared to just a normal 1-sheet poster. So it's another factor that impacts artists' work for poster design. But sometimes artists also have an impact onto the product that is advertised, or the imagery and corporate identity even of a company. This is a poster for Michelin, and founders of the Michelin company were walking around the Universal and Colonial exhibition in Lyon in 1894 and saw a pile of tires. And the idea came to them that it'd be a great idea to have a mascot made out of tires. They forgot about that for about 5 years, and then they met French cartoonist Marius Rossillon, popularly known as Ogalo, and he showed them a sort of a pitch that he made for a German brewery that featured a very stout-looking gentleman called Bibendum holding a glass of beer, and the slogan was the Horace's phrase, "Nunc est bibendum," now's the time for drinking. And the founders of the Michelin company quite liked the image, but then you think, how would they combine something that was designed for brewery with the ad for the tire company? So they made this gentleman in Bibendum, who's made of tires, and the idea was that the slogan was still "Nunc est bibendum," now's the time to drink. But the pitch was that the tires of the Michelin are so smooth, they drink all the imperfections of the road. So if you look at the poster, it says at the bottom, "Le pneu Michelin voit l'obstacle." Michelin tire drinks the obstacles. And he's holding a cup full of broken glass and nails and all the nasty things you find on the road. And on both of his sides, you see the tire X and tire Y looking completely deflated. So it's a clever sort of use of, I guess, design that failed somewhere else, but became quite iconic. And Michelin Man is actually now one of the most recognized corporate identities or mascots. About 90% of the population around the world recognizes Michelin. This poster was, the initial poster was created in 1898, but they liked it so much that they would update it ever so often, adding different products that Michelin company produced on the table in front of the Michelin Man. So what are the styles, artistic styles of posters? Belle Epoque is not an art style, but sort of a period before the First World War. Posters generally in that period followed the same kind of design principles, quite bright, colorful, often featuring ladies in flowing dresses, and kind of jolly and fun. Jules Chéret worked extensively during that period. He's considered pretty much grandfather of the posters in general. And what he did, he actually in the 19th century, he was quite influenced by the Japanese woodblock printing. And he came up with the idea of scaling down the number of colors that are used in poster production, which allowed for posters to be printed in a cheaper, more effective way. And he was quite prolific. He produced over 2,000 posters in his life, advertising multitude of products and events. Leonardo Capello also is worth mentioning. His designs are quite stunning and have this wow factor that feels quite modern even today. He's very popular with collectors, bold and striking designs, using sort of background of a single color. But he's also pioneered the art of branding. He had this ability to distill a corporate identity of a product into a single figure. Quite whimsical, fun, but very memorable and recognizable. And designs were simplified but effective, and even today they're quite popular and work quite well in modern decors. Another art style is Art Nouveau. This was a sort of art style that not only included posters, it was architecture, other forms of applied art, and characterized by flowing lines and beautiful, elegant designs. One of the artists that pretty much is a leading artist of that period was Alfons Mucha. He's known for his Mucha muses, very elegant ladies that were featuring quite often in his posters. Mucha has a profound impact on the design during that period. He became collectible during his life, and a lot of his posters were pretty much printed to be sold to the members of the public. And there is a very good museum of his in the Czech Republic. If you're in Prague, I recommend going there. Art Deco is another visual art design style. I'll talk briefly about it because there will be a whole presentation on Art Deco posters later on. Mid-century modern is art movement that's sort of was popular in the United States and Europe from roughly 45 to 69. Very sort of clean, simple lines. Generally did not include any decorative embellishments, and again very popular with collectors these days because these posters work quite well in modern apartments. One of the artists that worked in that style was Abram Games. He's a British artist, was drafted in World War II and designed quite a lot of posters for the British Army. One of his designs, you can see on the bottom left, for auxiliary territorial service, was actually banned or withdrawn because the British government thought that the design was too glamorous and would attract ladies to the ATS for all wrong kind of reasons. But one of the quotes, and I would like to quote him here, which I quite like, is he, in acknowledging his power as a propagandist, he claimed, "I want the spring, and the public, in looking at the poster, will have the spring released in its mind," which I think is a quite appropriate image, appropriate phrase for a lot of effective posters. They really get into your mind and sort of make you look twice at what they portray, but also stay with you for a while to advertise whatever they portray. One of the sort of surprising aspects that influence poster design often is corporate restructuring. You don't think about it really as something that would impact the art scene, but in Britain, posters in the late 19th, early 20th century were considered by artists as not very prestigious in terms of commissioning. And railways actually largely started to change that. They started employing Royal Academy artists. Norman Wilkinson was actually one of the first artists to start working for the railway companies. And by doing that, they changed the perception of the artist of how posters should be designed, but also of the sort of positioning in the art world overall. But largely, British railway posters were quite informative, not very artistic. You can see two examples on the left. And in 1923, the British government decided to reorganize the railway companies. And out of the existing 123 private railways, they formed 4 new companies, known collectively as the Big Four, which allowed for larger advertising budgets. And the companies actually decided to create their very distinct corporate identities and started employing artists on working on the posters, and the posters themselves became much more exciting and much more stylish. And this period is being referred to as the golden age of the railway poster in Britain. Artists such as Cassandra, McKnight Kalfa, Fred Taylor, Tom Purvis produced extremely fine work advertising different destinations. It also coincided with popularity of seaside resorts in Britain, so there were lots of new destinations to promote. And I guess advances in machinery as well, because some of the posters you can see there advertise Flying Scotsman train, which was the quickest way to get to Scotland at that time, but also was a very glamorous way to travel. Another corporate that had a profound impact on the poster design in Britain was London Transport. And that was largely driven by Frank Pick, who became the chairman and chief executive officer of the London Passenger Board from its creation in 1933 until 30, but he had an active role in designing corporate identity for the company. He believed that the value of good design, and I quote here, extends beyond mere aesthetics. It enhances the quality of daily life for everyone. So his view was to make the London Underground a place where people would actually like to spend time. And quite a lot of designs were quite quirky, with a good sense of humor. Like the poster you can see on the screen on the bottom left corner for you, has a person riding an escalator on the wrong side with a learner sign on his back. This poster was designed by Fougas and was actually printed during the Second World War. So even in tough times, they actually wanted to create a bit of a fun atmosphere on the underground. The poster on the top right, it was designed by Man Ray. It keeps London going. It's from 1938, and to this day it's the most expensive London Underground poster sold. It was sold by our colleagues at Swan Galleries in 2018 for $148,000. Man Ray was an American visual artist who spent a lot of his career in Paris. He was a significant contributor to the Dada and Surrealist movements. So there are lots of factors here that make this design iconic. He sort of portrayed London Bramdell there as one of the planets, which is kind of an outlandish idea, but it's very effective and quite visually striking. But posters were also produced by famous artists that are known beyond the poster world. The one you see on top left was designed by Picasso. Picasso was commissioned to design posters for Nice. This one has a wording called d'Azur, but there's another version that says Nice at the bottom as well. Roy Lichtenstein designed a poster for Aspen Winter Jazz that you can see on the screen at the bottom left. Above it, there's a poster for Munich Olympics from 1972 that was designed by David Hockney. It's a series of posters, art posters, produced for the Olympics. And at that time, David Hockney trained with a lot of other artists like Peter Phillips, Kitai, and Alan Jones, who were also commissioned to produce posters for the Olympics in 1972. The posters on the left were designed by Salvador Dali for the French railways. So variety of Matisse also designed posters for Côte d'Azur. So famous artists also did dabble in poster design. Who are the people who buy posters? I mean, some of them are collectors, but majority of the people are just looking to decorate, put it on the walls, to brighten up their life. And posters, I guess, is a medium that creates a personal connection with a person. It's all about the place. Very often it's where people are from, it's a period of time, or there is a special personal connection. Like we had one client who bought a poster for American Graffiti, and it was the first film he's seen with his father in the cinema. So there's always, with posters, a subject that could be very close to the person. But poster collecting became popular in France in late 19th, early 20th century, when Toulouse-Lautrec started designing posters, Steinlein and a few other designers, and sometimes enterprising dealers back then would strike a side deal with the print house to print just a few more posters of a popular artist so they can sell them to the collectors at that time. Subjects and themes of the posters that people collect vary. Sometimes it's a particular period, sometimes it's a particular airline, cruise ship company or railway company. One of our clients actually collects posters that feature tigers, regardless of the subject. He, I think, has about 12,000 posters in his collection, and he plans to publish a book and have an exhibition on the subject. But posters also are in collections of a lot of museums. MoMA, V&A, Tate Modern, lots of other posters, and now we have this beautiful place where we can see posters as well. And Poster House has done a fantastic job on featuring different subjects in their exhibitions, and Angelina Lippert will talk later about the exhibitions that they've been featuring. But overall, I think it's one of the few collectibles where you can purchase a museum quality piece at a relatively affordable price, even today. Talking about prices and sort of record prices, I guess, I wanted to talk about this poster. It's a poster for film Metropolis, released in 1927, directed by Fritz Lang. It's one of the sort of iconic sci-fi film posters. This version is actually a rare international style without any credits at the bottom. There are only 4 known to exist around the world. It was first sold in 2005 in a private sale for $619,000. But later on, there was a massive bankruptcy case and it came for sale again as a part of a lot that included other posters, King Kong, The Invisible Man, but that lot sold for $1.2 million, largely because of this poster. It is rumored that it has been acquired by Leonardo DiCaprio, but you know, it's sort of in analyzing why this poster is so expensive, it's all about the film. The film had a profound impact on a lot of movie directors that we know. Directors such as Ridley Scott, George Lucas, and others have cited Metropolis as a sort of inspiration of their work. It was groundbreaking in terms of set design, and if you haven't seen the film, I highly recommend it. Amazing Art Deco sets. It's beautiful, and even to today, I think it's definitely worth seeing. But talking about other price records for posters, it's mostly film posters are pretty much at the high end of poster prices. I guess largely driven by the fact that quite a lot of people in Hollywood collect them, and for them spending $200,000–300,000, I guess it's a different sort of reality than, at least for me. The poster on the left sold for $525,800 in an auction. It's a one sheet for Dracula. It's considered to be holy grail for movie poster collectors. And prior to the discovery of this one sheet poster, only once it did surface early in the early 1990s. So it's quite a rare piece. The one in the middle is a Casablanca poster. It's a 4-sheet poster, so it is massive. You could see some of the 4-sheet Italian posters in the exhibition of Italian posters that are here now. And it's a beautiful piece, rare, hence the price. And the one on the right, it's for London After Midnight. The film itself was lost, but this poster was discovered and it's sold in 2014. But the film was later recreated using 200 still photographs and a continuity script, and was later released on DVD. And it was the first time that this poster came up on the market in 87 years. So yeah, I guess it sort of makes sense. Post paper, you know, some of them just didn't survive. Posters by nature, ephemeral, were not meant to live that long, were plastered on the walls, glued, torn down or glued over. I know that in the 1920s, poster rolls of poster paper were quite popular with the homeless because they provided quite good insulation against the weather. And there's actually a story about a significant collection of British railway posters that was discovered when people were making renovations on their house and lifted the carpet on the floor and discovered railway posters underneath that somebody used as insulation, which was lucky because they survived. So, but overall, you know, film posters, as I said, sort of at the top of the end market, or at the top of the market because there's a Hollywood star collector base, DiCaprio, Nicolas Cage, and others. And another quiz for you to test. Yeah, but you probably all recognize this by now. It's iconic Times Square, but it just shows how effective some posters are. Just by using geometric shape, you instantly recognize what the subject of the poster is. This one was designed by David Klein. It's an early, rare 1956 version. There were a few, the TWA liked the poster so much they kept on reprinting it, updating the planes at the top and adding the slogans as well. This one features a Constellation plane, and if you haven't been to the TWA hotel, I highly recommend it. It's in GFK, and they have a Constellation plane there, which is actually turned into a bar. Yeah. So that's it from me. Any questions? I'd be happy to answer. Yep.
What trends do you see among collectors?
Hi Kirill, just what trends do you see among collectors, like new trends, new interests?
Thank you. I find that it's sort of quite often related to economy, surprisingly. In the last 2-3 years, we've seen very strong collector base coming out of India, for example. As markets develop, economy develops, middle class develops, people have more disposable income, and posters are a great way for people to rediscover the history of the country, similar in a way that it was for me, for example. I see at the moment strong market developing in Poland as well, especially for interwar material between the First and the Second World War. But then some subjects continue to be popular, like for example ski posters. I see strong demand now also for Soviet space posters, And I think with the further commercialization of the space travel, when it becomes more affordable, I think people just like them as presents. And Soviet graphics are quite strong as well. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Any other questions? Great. Well, we'll progress to the next presentation then. It's